Mental diet. Mini course, part 7. Unbelievable. At this point, you want to watch some of the other videos before this one. Don't make this the first video. That seems kind of silly. Hopefully you're enjoying this mini course we've done. Yesterday we had what I thought was a very important video, just discussing and reading all of Emmett Fox's Golden Key. The Golden Key of Emmett Fox, probably the greatest thing he ever wrote, and one of the greatest pieces of literature in New Thought, as far as I'm concerned, at least. Wonderful. I encourage you to watch the entire series for sure. But in the very least, if you don't want to watch the entire series, if you don't want to go on a 7-day mental diet, which I totally understand, it's not for everybody. It's not for everyone's taste. Even so, I would recommend watching yesterday's video about the Golden Key. I know some people are wondering, I saw a comment, you hear this comment all the time, how about if I'm agnostic? How about if I don't believe in God with a capital G, right? How would I apply the Golden Key in my life? First of all, you don't have to apply it. Again, it's just an approach. It's just a method, right? But if you do feel like you resonate with the approach and you just you aren't particularly, I guess you could say, religious about this stuff, or spiritual about this stuff, you would look at it more from just a psychological angle. So thinking of God, that doesn't reverberate within you in any way. That you can say universe or unconscious or subconscious or imagination. You can use a word like that. Think on the universe instead. That's why universe is a big buzzword in the modern LOA world, because people don't want to use the G word. They're scared to use the G word, so they use the universe instead. But yeah, if you're interested in applying the Golden Key, but don't aren't a spiritual person, I would really say the Golden Key is probably just not the right approach for you. Use a more psychological approach. Coué, again, he never uses spiritual terms in describing this stuff, and it works really well. So I hope that's helpful. Another thing to mention is Fox says, you don't have to know what God is. It's just whatever that term, whatever that unknowing thing is that seems powerful to you. That's what you're trying to, contemplate when you're applying that kind of a method. Today we're going to get a little bit more into specifics of the 7-day mental diet. And we're going to go over the metaphor that Fox said. Again, I'm going to be repeating myself at this point over and over again, which is basically what this is all about. This is about not being reactive to your thinking. And negative thoughts, in all likelihood, feeling like crap, in all likelihood, are going to be a part of this 7-day diet, perhaps for a lot of it. This is not about being positive. This isn't about turning a happy face to that negativity, and superficially acting happy. This is about acknowledging what's there, thinking-wise, feeling-wise, and not beating yourself up about it, not getting negative about external things because of it, but instead staying neutral and present and recognizing all of this stuff that's arising without judging yourself harshly or judging others harshly for it arising. That's what bends you in this new direction. So Fox says, a perfect analogy is furnished by the case of a man who is sitting by an open fire when a red-hot cinder flies out and falls on his sleeve. If he knocks that cinder off at once, without a moment's delay to think about it, no harm is done. But if he allows it to rest on him for a single moment under any pretense, the mischief is done, and it will be a troublesome task to repair that sleeve. So it is with a negative thought. Great analogy, great metaphor. When you're dwelling in negativity. That's what Fox is saying. He's saying, when you have a negative thought. And the point is, you have a negative thought and you notice it and you go, there's a negative thought. But you don't dwell on it. You say, there's a negative thought, I'm not going to dwell on it. And another thought is then naturally going to come. You can think of God if you want. You can try to think positively if you want. But like I said, the thoughts are just going to come one after another. Positive, negative, neutral, whatever you want to say. But you know when you have a negative thought. This isn't about stopping the negative thoughts. This is just about not being reacted to them. Knocking off that cinder when it gets on your sleeve, as soon as the negative thought hits, just saying, all right, that's it. Wiping it away. And that's it. Cleaning the slate over and over again. If you do that, your shirt's not going to get a hole in it. Your mind is not going to be, reacting in the same way as it normally is. And that lack of reactivity over the course of a whole week is going to build up and give you, it's going to give you insights and frankly, revelations a lot of the time that you would not normally get because of your lack of reactivity. So great analogy by Fox. Let's get into more specifics about, what this means, in certain circumstances. Fox says, now, what of those negative thoughts and conditions which it is impossible to avoid at the point where you are today? What are the ordinary troubles that you will have to meet in the office or at home? The answer is that such things will not affect your diet provided that you do not accept them. By fearing them, by believing them, by being indignant or sad about them, or by giving them any power at all. Any negative condition that duty compels you to handle will not affect your diet. Go to the office or meet the cares at home without allowing them to affect you. None of these things move me. And all will be well. Suppose that you are lunching with a friend who talks negatively. Don't try to shut him up or otherwise snub him. Let him talk, but do not accept what he says, and your diet will not be affected. Suppose that on coming home you are greeted with a lot of negative conversation. Do not preach a sermon, but simply do not accept it. It is your mental consent, remember, that constitutes your diet. It's very important. It's your mental consent. Your response, you consenting to the negativity and responding to it negatively. That's what's getting you in trouble. That's what's taking you off the diet. But if you don't consent to it, if you're not affected by it, none of these things move me, then as Fox says, all will be well. You'll still be on the diet. He says, suppose you witness an accident or an act of injustice. Instead of reacting with pity or indignation, as we often do, understandably, by the way, when we're not on the diet, it's understandable. But in this situation, if you're on the 7-day mental diet, if you see an injustice or an accident, refuse to accept the appearance at its face value. Do anything that you can to right matters. Give it the right thought and let it go at that. You will still be on the diet. In other words, stuff can come up. Stuff will come up over these 7 days. You will be faced with many minor, perhaps major, but certainly minor negative situations. And you're not going to be reacting in the normal way. That's the point. I hope what I just read was pretty clear. It should be. Fox is very explicit about this. This next part's important too. He says, of course, it will be very helpful if you can take steps to avoid meeting during this week anyone who seems particularly likely to arouse the devil in you. People who get on your nerves or rub you the wrong way or bore you are better avoided while you're on the diet. But if it's not possible to avoid them, then you must just take a little extra discipline. That's all. So, Fox isn't encouraging you to do this diet on a week that you think is going to be particularly difficult or where you're likely to get riled by stuff. You don't have to do that. The point is you face your daily, quote unquote, normal troubles in this more non-reactive way. And if you run into people or situations that normally, really give you that negative reaction, you just take extra care not to react negatively. Again, especially after the first couple of days, you get used to this. I don't want to say it gets easier because it's still not easy, but you get used to not responding in the normal reactive way that you normally do. You just get used to it. And you're able to create that gap, as I said in one of the earlier videos, create that gap where you say, oh, wait a minute. Or wait a second, really. Wait a second. I don't have to react to this. I don't have to dwell on this. In that gap, doing that over and over again. After a couple days, you're used to that gap. And you react to things differently. Fox continues to say, suppose that you have a particularly trying ordeal before you over the next week. Well, if you have enough spiritual understanding, you will know how to meet that in the spiritual way. But for our present purpose, I think I would wait and start the diet as soon as the ordeal is over. As I said before, do not take up the diet lightly, but think it over well first. Again, he's saying, like, you know, if you know stuff's going to be tough in the upcoming week emotionally, it's probably not the best time to do the diet, especially if it's your first time doing it. It's better probably to wait until you just have like a quote unquote normal week ahead of you and try it then. That said, if you've done the diet before and are used to this kind of mental discipline, it can be very helpful to go on some kind of mental diet or be very aware that you're like golden keying a situation over the next couple days. For instance, when my wife went into labor, or you know, we had a scheduled. My wife was being induced for when we had our last child last year, and I knew that date, and so the days leading up to that, and you know, when she was induced that day. I've spoken about this, I think, briefly before. Like, I was doing a lot of active affirming during that time, but I was also using the golden key a lot because I was used to disciplining my mind in this way through the mental diet and other similar, mental exercises. And I thought it would help me to do that while my wife was being induced and, you know, the days leading up to labor and after the baby was born. I felt that would be beneficial to the situation, and I think it was beneficial to the situation. But I was intentionally much less reactive than I normally am during that time last year. And again, that's because of experiences I'd had doing things like the 7-day mental diet. All right, so I hope that that clarified some of the finer points, the nuanced points of this diet. We probably have one more video to go to get through the rest of the text. I hope these have been helpful. Again, if you have questions, if you're looking for coaching or support on this subject, I love coaching and working with people, counseling people on this, because it really is meant to be a life-changing week. And learning how to work with your mind in this way, and like even golden key things, it's profoundly helpful in my experiences. You know, I've just seen it be profoundly helpful in my life and in people's lives I've worked with who do it. And there's a lot of nuances you're probably noticing just as we go through this text that you might not have heard if you just, you know, read the text once, or, you know, people banter about it online on message boards or whatever. That's the value of talking to people about this, you know, having counseling or having a support group of some kind to discuss this stuff with in a nuanced way. Because even if you just pick up one or two little things, like for instance, one or two of the little things that we've mentioned in these videos are probably new to you and will help you significantly, even though they're minor things, next time you do the mental diet or in general and how you approach these principles in your life overall. So that's why we make these videos. All right. Until next time, enjoy. And if you have questions, radicalcounselor.com.